And so when slavery ended, the first thing that the former slaves did was to create schools. All throughout the South. In fact, it was the former slaves who brought public education to the South. And not just for black people. Because poor white people didn't have right to education either. So the same former slaves made sure white people got educated too. And during that period, many of what the historically black colleges were created. Howard, Fisk, going down the line. They were created because we understood the key to freedom was education. The key to freedom is education today. Think about this. Who do we incarcerate in this country? Our babies. I spent time with our babies back there in those cells and in these prisons. The other thing I see is beyond being our babies, they're the ones that fail to be educated. I go back there, I see people who can't read and write. I go back there and I see people who have IEPs, who still have learning needs not been met. I go back there and I see people who were denied an education and allowed it to happen to themselves. Education is still the key to our freedom, right now. So I want to encourage you as parents and the students that are here today, as important as college is, that's secondary to our freedom. You know, my father taught me, and my father didn't even graduate from high school. As I was going ready to go to college, he said, you know what, you get a free education in this country with a library card. Library card. But most people don't take advantage of the library card. He did. So although he didn't have formal degrees, he was a well-read person. He said the second thing, he said, I know you're going off to this college. He said, now don't go off and study something you could have studied for free in the library. Now later on, when he heard I was going to study history and sociology, he said, I think you could have done that in the library. Okay? But the other thing he said to me is, don't go off to college and become an educated fool. An educated fool. What's an educated fool? Well, we see signs of it all the time, don't we? People with degrees who have lots of formal knowledge and no common sense. Because common sense doesn't come through books. Common sense comes through life experience. Common sense comes from learning from your mistakes. Common sense comes from having good judgment about who to be with and who to avoid. I want to make sure that you understand that this education that we have access to is still the